It's rare that Kirby Smart doesn't have a lot to say about a particular issue, particularly when we're talking about the Southeastern Conference. But he was a little bit indifferent today with reporters at a golf tournament in Alabama. He said, I can go either way on that, talking about an 8 game or a 9 game schedule. But hey, you're getting a 9 game schedule. It's just a matter of time. Anyway, he goes on to say, either format is going to allow us to go through the cycle and through the SEC much faster. So there won't be a 4 year window that you don't play everybody home and away. Um, he goes on to say, I think people are looking for something to debate about. But if you're going to play everybody in the SEC in 4 years home and away, the two methodologies we're talking about are not that vastly different. They are different. I mean, vastly, I think is a term that any particular person can define, but they are certainly different. I mean, um, playing. I I think Georgia playing Auburn every year is important enough to make it happen. Frankly, the 9 game, and I think there's so much momentum behind the 9 game that there is a difference. Losing that rivalry would be, really not good for either school. Frankly, it's such an important part of both institutions' identity that that it's a big moment in the college football fall. But the thing that the SEC has probably um, realized, or their media partner Disney has certainly explained in a very nice way, probably with a lot of zeros after it, that you know we do need to see more Georgia Alabama and fewer Mizzou Georgia games. We need to see more Texas Georgia and fewer Georgia Vanderbilt. That's what the money's for, as Don Draper would say. And speaking of money, look, tonight we're going DoorDash. I think you should too. The link is down below. Make sure you're taking advantage of this offer, particularly those of you who have never used it before. All you got to do is click the link below. It's 50% off your DoorDash order. You know, if you're in Atlanta, obviously there's a ton of places. In Athens, there's a lot of places too, and not just big box retailers. So get 50% off your first order of up to a $20 value. Use the code DAWG. Make sure that you use that code. Don't forget the code is DAWG for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. And we can't do these things without DoorDash. Please support the people that support us. But we're going to see a 9 game schedule. I mean, I'd be shocked. I mean, I don't usually say that about stuff, but the school. There's a couple of reasons why, and let me explain. Stick with me here. The the schools are the schools. It's nuanced. The SEC and Disney agreed to their extension in 2020. At the end of 2020, they actually agreed to it, from what I understand, at the beginning of 2020, and then COVID hit. So they didn't announce it for a while, or it wasn't, fully signed, whatever. But they agreed to it in spring of 2020. It was announced in December, and at that time, Texas and Oklahoma were not included in that. So what's going on here is you're bringing in two new partners, and everybody's staying at the same level of money. I will say that at least one shot caller has said to me that they would be very disappointed if the SEC did not get more money in a media deal from bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. I can confirm with full authority that the agreement with Disney does not mean that the agreement that Disney has with the SEC does not mandate that bringing in new schools guarantees a new contract, guarantees looking at a new contract, and that it does not guarantee that those schools, whoever they may be, Notre Dame, that you're going to bring in more money because you're bringing them in. No, that's not what it says. So this is a very what's the word? This is a very important moment in terms of This is a very important thing to understand when you start talking about the 8 or 9 game schedule. You know, if I look, if it were me, I think Georgia should play LSU, Alabama, Arkansas, the traditional SEC schools more often. I mean, no one cares about Georgia playing Missouri, and frankly, there's not much appetite for Georgia, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Kentucky, and we know that, and to some degree South Carolina. But they have been in the league forever. The whole point of all of this is to make more money. It's consolidation of power and to make more money. And the folks that I talk to are not just like making this up or just sort of ho hum. I mean, it matters. It matters to them. It matters to them in their jobs. So it's a delicate dance. The SEC is worth more money with Texas and Oklahoma in it, playing a 9 game schedule. I don't know how you're going to balance the league with 8. I mean, you go into pods. Well, then you're just playing. You're essentially going with the 9 game anyway in that scenario. I don't know how you. I do not know how you determine a champion in a East West. That's not going to happen in an 8. So, or excuse me, in an 8 game schedule, an 8 game. This pod. You can't do divisions anymore. So you've got 16 teams. You have basically you have two conferences on opposite sides of one another. So this 9 game is coming. And, Kirby's doing what he does, which is not answering a question. He's good at it. But he knows it's coming. The guy's not an idiot. I think Georgia has had an advantage playing in the East the bulk of the time Kirby's been there. You're not dealing with LSU and Alabama every single year. You're dealing with them sometimes, but you're not dealing with them every year. So that needs to be understood. Number two, when they play them, they more than hold their own. Okay. They just beat LSU by 20. And the last time they played Alabama, they beat them by 15, I think it was. So, last time they played Auburn, they beat them by 30 something. So the Western schools, they beat Arkansas by 37 a year ago. I mean, the Western schools it's a more competitive side of the conference usually. Now, not all the time. I mean, the East was better this past time, but those are going away. They're going away because television is going to demand Oklahoma and Florida. Television is going to demand Texas A&M. It's going to demand Georgia, Florida, Auburn, Alabama. It is paying for matchups. That's what we're seeing in the NFL. They've gone away from CBS having the AFC and Fox having the NFC. Why? Because Fox is getting murdered. All the good quality football is on the other side of the ledger. It's not like it used to be. I mean, when Rupert Murdoch got into the game, there was a reason why. He desperately wanted the NFC. Why? Because it had the larger media markets. It had New York, Washington, Dallas, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. At the time, if I'm not mistaken, with the Raiders. So with the Rams, they had LA too. I think if I'm not, oh no, excuse me, I'm saying LA, Chicago. So they had New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Washington, Dallas. I mean, those are those are basically more than half of the top 10 media. You got Atlanta too. So and that's why they wanted the NFC. And what Disney wants is all of it. They want it all. They want Georgia, Alabama. They want Georgia, Auburn. They want Georgia, Florida. They want Georgia, Tennessee. They just simply can't pull that off. So they're going to – if you go to an 8 game and you are rotating through, that's one way to do it for sure. But then you lose Georgia, Auburn. You lose Tennessee, Alabama, and you lose LSU, Florida. Now, we're going to lose LSU, Florida anyway because those two schools don't know how to get along. But – you're losing 2 top 25 matchups top 20 television program matchups every year. I don't think so. I do not think so. And then say, well, you're getting Texas, Georgia, and yeah, if Texas is good, which was when the last time when they beat Georgia in 2018, that mirage. What and then what? 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Let me just look up the last time Texas mattered in college football because it's not been a lot. And they want Oklahoma, Texas. They want all these games, but they want what they can depend on. That's the thing. Texas 5-7, 8-5, 9-4, 8-5, 6-7, 5-7, 5-7, 7-6. We're back at 10-4, 8-5, 7-3, 5-7, 8-5. They're South Carolina. They're South Carolina. I mean, South Carolina's been better than this, if we're being honest, at times. So, like, I get the power of Texas, no disrespect, but they're not proving it on the field. So, I can't wait for the next, Georgia, Texas, or Alabama, Oklahoma, or Arkansas, Texas would be a great game. They're gonna get that, and it doesn't matter what the coaches think. This ain't about the coaches. The coaches have no say in this in any way. This is just basically up to two people: Bob Iger. If you don't know who that is, okay, Bob Iger, the president of Disney, and maybe the president of ESPN, and Greg Sankey. Period. I mean, it doesn't. Everybody else really doesn't matter because the league rules this. The contract is with the league, not the schools.